So now that you've heard about the implementation plan, what tools has Canyon School District made to support your implementation? And so we're going to talk a little bit about our instructional guides. So we have always made a book. Right here is the link, and this is hot for you to click on to the instructional guides. And here also is hot for you to click on in the instructional guides. What is the difference between a curriculum map, which is what we used to call this, and an instructional guide? A curriculum map is the scope and sequence, the pacing, and the standards. What we've been using for years is more of an instructional guide that has things like the scope and sequence, pacing, and standards, just like you have on this side. But it also has routines, best practices, and systems and frameworks. So like our instructional priorities are in there. Our testing framework is in there. Our benchmarks are in there. So those are all things that you can find in this great big book that can be found online. How to grade, your report card, all of those are in there. Right now, your scope and sequence, your pacing, and your standards are all going to be in this course, so you know how to outline your ELA block. But the target date for all of these other pieces will be August 1st of 2022, right before you start back to school. Let's talk about your literacy block then, your first tool for implementation for second grade. Here you see the components, the foundations, language, reading and writing, and your skills-based instruction. What is done in whole group because it's tier 1, and what is done in small group because you're looking to have those components for giving kids what they need. And then what the range of time is, what standards you'll be using, and what components. So your foundations, you're using 95 core program. Your language and reading and writing, you're using the Wonders. For writing projects, you're also using Wonders. For skill-based instruction, you're using Wonders, 95 lesson library, 95 phonological awareness, and your early literacy software. Here you see this dotted line. And the reason for that is you have your reading and language block, but you also have your language and writing block. Some days, because writing is so embedded within the Wonders piece that embeds into those reading pieces, you're working with language, speaking, listening, and the RI/RL standards. But you're also working with the writing standards and the language standards as well. So when you talk about these two components, you are up to 60 to 70 minutes where you are working here together. So this may or may not look like 30, and this may or may not look like 45, because you might combine them together to get that full range of time of the 60 minutes. And that's why this line here is dotted. It's for that representation that you're going to have embedded time for your writing standards. Let's look at your second piece, and this is your year at a glance for your programs. Here you have that link for that so that you can have that for your reference. You have your suggested pacing guide, talking about how to do it in which days of the year. You have your phonics and word analysis that comes straight from the 95 core phonics program right here. You have your language and writing standards. You also have your writing focus right here. This writing focus is outlined in the Wonders program. You also notice when you call this up that you will see the DWSBA is also on here and is cut off on this slide. So what you will be working for your DWSBA, for your first one, your second one, and your third one. And they basically line out as units 1, 2, units 3, 4, and units 5, 6. And here is what that looks like that I was just talking to you about. So you'll see that there is a key language use that is for students who lack language, and then that district-wide standards-based assessment and how that will be aligned for with those text types here and what those dates are. Let's talk about the unit pacing then that you will have. You have 6 weeks in a unit, and in that unit you have 30 days or 30 teaching days to teach 25 lessons. So we expect that you will wrap around those weeks, and what that would look like is if you had Monday off because it was a holiday, then you would teach lessons 1 through 4 Tuesday through Friday, and then teach lesson 5 the following Monday. The reason for that is how the standards get more difficult. You're missing your most rigorous piece of what kids would be tested at to be able to, if you were to compact that. And so we're hoping that you'll use those 30 teaching days with the flexible days in case you had field trips or you had to take an extra day for something or something were to happen. So you have those extra flexible weeks. So here you see how that would work out. You have 3 text sets. You have 2 weeks for the first text set. You have 2 weeks for the second text set. For week 3, Wonders has it set up that you only have 5 days. And so the text set is set up with the same components but a little differently, because by the time you get to text set 3, the skills and standards that you're working on, kids should be able to do more fluently. And then you have a flexible week 6 where you have several choices. You could be using that as flexible days because you needed more time. You could put in student projects. You had flexible days because you had field trips or other components, and so that's how you can kind of play with those calendar days to be able to make it fit what you and your team and your school site need. The same thing with your 95 phonics core program in grade 2, and that is you have 30 days to teach 25 lessons. We know that when you are starting, you might need to wrap around some things, and we'll help you to do that we've given you some slush time to be able to either reteach a day or redo some of the components or use some of the things you've learned in your letters to be able to take care of what kids need and really get them to mastery. Let's talk about the 10-day plan for your second grade component here. So you have a 10-day planner for the ELA instruction block. One thing that might be confusing is this says day 1 through day 5. That's because that is how 95 phonics core program is set up. It's set up to be day 1 through 5. So even though Wonders is a 10-day sequence, you would be doing day 1 through 5 and then another day 1 through 5 with the next skill in your foundations block. With your Wonders, you have 2 weeks on a text set or 10 days. And here you see all of the components or the big rocks that you need to be teaching. And so these are your must-dos for Wonders, for your implementation. It has a lot of components in there, but these are the places that you will hit the standards if you teach these components. And that's what is labeled out here on this 10-day plan. If you click this link right here that's underlined, that link will support you in getting this 10-day planner for you to print or put in a notebook or put in a jump page or an electronic bookmark, however it is that you would like to save it for your scope and sequence and planning until you see all of those instructional guides published. So I want you to go now to your Learning Task Notebook, use the 10-day plan and the 4 text set implementation for the year 1, and identify which days of these texts appear in the 10-day cycle. Here's a hint: use the 10-day plan. Use the word bank and the sentence frame. The blank text is used during days blank. Interactive read aloud, shared read, anchor text, paired text is your word bank. So what days or lessons is this used on to be able to complete this closed sentence or with this sentence frame? Go ahead and go to your learning task notebook.